permit. I don't care if you buy a permit. Do you know how little I actually care if you have a permit?
Complaining about the fact that he received no support from that. I think Boat has some.
Yes, I
some
do.
leaks for us.
Oh, I got some leaks for you.
It's like
Can't
simple
get right.
shit like that. No, simple shit like that. If
I
he
need,
can't
I
answer
need
that
to break
publicly,
in. I need to break in because I need more original every week. That's a goal.
Do you really actually get paid for that? Because you deserve money for that last one. That one was a fucking amazing setup.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first show of 2020. And did we actually do anything right? Do we have sound?
Oh shit, we didn't fuck up
God.
the intro. Oh,
holy crap.
Dude, we forgot to talk over the intro.
Yeah, I know. I even let you guys come in a little early too. You were so well behaved. Happy New Year, Sally Salomon. We got our nice little Happy New Year little GIF. That we got off the internet for a free download, so we enjoyed that. So, because Caleb said we don't have any decorations for the new year, so he wanted champagne and fireworks, but I can only find fireworks. That's what we got. So Happy New Year, everyone! Happy New Year, McLeod. Happy New Year, Arendis is out there.
He is.
Yes, indeed.
We did have an interesting conversation. Oh, I love it. I'm not fat. I'm just super juicy. By the way, I'm on my second carafe of coffee of the new year. And it's supposed to snow here, so I wanted the snow background again, so I brought it back because I love snow. Screaming BZ. AMOC is recruiting. By the way, so a bunch of us are playing Atlas, and we got like an ex-AMOC guy that just joined us, and it's kind of funny. I said if he, when we're in voice comms, if he says AMOC is recruiting one time, we're just kicking him out of the company and blowing up his ship. So all in good fun because we love AMOC. And also we did Urendis did a drive-by in the staff chat, but we'll see if he shows up because the topic today, the big topic, is CCP Convict's post about how do you feel about Eve, and we thought that was such a great topic that there would be no lack of opinions, and so it'd be great for audience participation, right, Caleb?
Before we get into that, on the topic of your former AMOC guy, I just think that's a terrible way to treat Laz. So.
Ooh. Terrible.
Drama.
I'm clearly like, one thing I wanted to go, like everybody saw their year-end video in EVE Online, right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dedicated logistics pilots don't qualify for any of their categories.
Well, it was interesting because by and large, I've only logged in to do just a little bit of a logistics every month since basically July. I figured it out. And by the way, so it's super easy for a CCP to check all this, right? The scariest thing to me about that year-end video was the fact that in almost every category, I'm in the top 10%. So I'm like 5%, 6%, 7% in most. And one or two, I'm like, one I'm 15 and one I'm 17%, I think. And the fact that I basically haven't played for half the year.
Yeah, that's kind of concerning.
That should scare that above all things should scare the shit out of CCP.
Well, I think the problem with this whole thing is that it's a really cool gimmick, but I think someone in the development team forgot that kind of you need to normalize data like this, because in a game where it says you and your 35 alts did the following this year, it's like, okay, maybe you should figure out how to remove all those not that active accounts.
It is Snowmageddon, Dwight.
You know what? I did say I did kind of talk about that in my little in the stuff that I'm going to be posting onto the onto what's his face's CCP Convicts kind of Reddit thread.
I'm gonna actually I don't post to Reddit. I don't read Reddit, but I read that and I read a lot of that thread today, and I'm gonna be responding to. So wait, the challenge is.
I'm specifically not actually looking at it right now, so I'm not like influenced by other people like talking, saying, "Oh, this" or "Oh, that," or you know.
It's just tragic, right? Because we
all of that here.
Yep, I'm getting all of that here.
Not to start down the whole CCP bashing, but this is just one of those examples where we were told that they have actual data scientists. Why are they not stopping a feature like this that could be cool, but ended up being meh and lame?
What are we talking about? What feature?
Well,
anything?
Your year in Eve. If that is
I thought it was cool.
All right.
Yeah, but
Caleb,
it is.
Caleb.
It's a cool idea, but it's wrong. The fucking data is useless.
Caleb, given everything else that is fucking up with their data, like giant fucking things missing from the MER every month, and it being a
We're not
different
talking
thing.
MER.
And wait, and it being
It's so broken.
Hang on. All right. I would rather they have their actual data scientists looking at those issues and not your year in Eve. I don't give a shit about your year in Eve. Fix the actual things.
Well, it's meant to be symptomatic. It's symptomatic. That's what Caleb was trying to say. It's
like those Facebook things that people participate in to do those stupid quizzes or how intelligent you are. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's so lame.
I fucking hate it so much. I fucking hate those so much. I had an ex who just
it's like Candy Crush.
So
you just
lame.
ignore them. You
So
just
fucking
ignore
lame.
them. So, but I liked the Year in Eve. It was kind of cool, but
I did get one thing right. Like one of my Year in Eve videos did get one thing right, and it was that my nemesis was Doom Chiller. So they definitely got that motherfucking thing right.
Hey, welcome, Soft.
We are raging about Eve here.
Rage,
Always.
baby.
That's the point of this show.
Well, do we ever not rage?
It's our catharsis, man. This is our catharsis. The show.
This is the anger management course. This is like Gestalt therapy 101.
Hey now. I have that trademarked. Fuck me.
I get an intellectual IG. It is not really snowing yet. We're supposed to get snow today. And by the way, if I could have the perfect ideal window view out my window, what's behind me would be it. Pretty much 6 months out of the year, and then the other 6 months I want to live on the beach. I don't want fall and I don't want spring, even though I do like fall kind of. It rains where I live in fall and spring, and so it's shitty.
I just want to say thank you, Sothrasil, for being someone who, is not going to basically let me be the only person who can't speak today. So thank you for that.
Well, the difference being that this is actually your first language.
Just semantics, dude. Semantics.
That's right. This is your first language, and Soth will let you know when he gets around to learning it.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, when you think about it, right? I mean, here's the thing.
You have to.
You do. Yeah. I'm actually going to respond to this Reddit thread. It's just getting my thoughts together to respond in a way that doesn't seem like I'm just bitching, right? Cause
Yeah,
because
that is going to be hard.
I'm because I think By the way, I think CCP Convict is genuine in the ask here, and he's genuinely interested, right? Sadist, not a blue screen, not a green screen. It is VCam, so it is all electronic. Behind me is a beautifully beige wall. Okay, with no pictures because I use this wall, but other walls have lots of pictures. One of them is a snow scene in front of me. Another one is the Capitol on the 4th of July. We have over here, we have a flag signed by Arnold Palmer. So we got all kinds of cool things on the wall.
But Eric, you say that you think he's genuine. The question is, does that make it better or worse?
What do you mean?
I think he is trying to gather data that he can use to help improve Eve. That's what I think is genuine. Whether it's the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it or whatever, I don't want to debate that. I just think the fact that he asked the question is important.
He's actually doing his job, right? He's basically doing his job. He's getting some feedback from the community that he can use as an actual community manager. I think that's also what Arendis started pointing out in his post, that there's very good things about this, but it also shows a lot of the problems that we have right now.
Well, he said I don't have a problem with him asking the question. What I have a problem with is the fucking AT baiting that he did. Because
he did AT bait a little bit, yeah, but you don't know what he can and can't say. You know, he may have been skirting what he can and can't say.
Then don't fucking bait. Like, seriously, they should be aware by now.
If he's trying to give people a reason to be optimistic, then
yeah.
I don't think he's doing it out of an intent to raise hopes and dash them. Yeah, he's legitimately trying to say, hey guys, listen, I know this thing may have gone bad, but we're working on it. We're trying.
No, he already backpedaled on it.
Yeah, well, that's because he probably got that wrong.
He probably got someone slapped his fucking wrist,
And he's new enough.
Don't give them hope they'll take it as a promise, which is wrong.
Exactly. But the thing is, right? There's a line in his original post that just makes me think that it's a good sentiment from him, and I wish it was something that was echoed into to more CCP devs, and wider to CCP, which is where he said, "Well, I think I have a genuinely decent grasp of what matters to you guys. It never hurts to calibrate my baseline."
Yeah,
that's a pretty good line. Exceptionally important.
Hello, Dirk. Welcome to the show.
I admit, I'm starting to get annoyed at him.
You are?
Oh yeah, I am. Dirk's really annoys the fuck out of me.
Oh, Dirk.
Yeah, that's just
It's you know what? It's more the tone and sound of his voice that's annoying. I think, Dirk. I mean, do you guys agree?
Don't like Aussies.
Thanks.
You're welcome. By the way, I'm making that up for the audience.
And my annoyance right now is kind of on a low simmer because it's not yet Monday morning. But come Monday morning, looking to be out and out pissed at Convict.
To be fair,
really? Okay. Let's delve into that. Tell us how you feel, Arendis.
I feel like he made the statement of it's too late to do this now, but I'll do it but I'll post this thread over on the regular forums tomorrow on Thursday night, and it's still not there.
Yeah.
But Arendis, it's hard to copy paste a Reddit thread into the Eve forums.
He would have to rewrite it a little bit.
He would have to rewrite it a little bit, but that should take him all of I don't know, 20, 30 seconds.
I mean, these people aren't us, Orundus. Come on.
But it speaks to the whole thing of using Reddit the way that they do, right? I think they should have an internal.
Especially when he went back and edited out his statement that he felt R-Eve had been neglected.
Yeah, well, I think
Did he edit that out?
He edited that out. It's gone.
Christ.
It's not there.
They should have an internal policy that says that anything like this, feedback or discussion threads, should always be on their own forums first and foremost.
Right, and I agree with that.
They told us they did. But let's keep in mind, all right, and fully admit he's gone now, but let's keep in mind that statement was made during Falcon's tenure, and Falcon's primary activity in any frickin' scenario is, I'm going to go troll Reddit.
Well, troll was his problem. That's probably why he's fired. He trolled everything, and he was just overall jerk.
I'm not even going to speculate on why he's no longer with the company and whose decision that was.
I don't know. I don't care. He's gone, thank God. So, not that I really liked that he was fired. He just wasn't a good community guy.
There were things I like more about Verone. So, we'll
see.
I just feel like it's a bit kind of like it'll be bad for all of us, just like, you know, for looking gift horse in the mouth.
I think
juncture.
Well, again, everybody expresses themselves in different ways, and remember, he's I have my actual true feeling that I won't share here as to why Falcon was fired, but hey. And thank you, -0, for the follow. Much appreciated. I think Convict, again, is one of the newer CCPers, right? He comes from a player base, so he's got his own things that he's used to anyway. I do think CCP
2.0, right?
Yeah,
he's got almost exactly the same background as Verone, where it comes to first being a player, then being engaged in player-to-player activity with EVE Down Under, just like Verone used to be part of the whole EVE London thing. So they have very many things in common, right, when it comes to their background or what they would have been hired on, right? And I do think that we should give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a few years to actually settle in and figure out how to do this in the office of CCP, right? Because I think he could actually end up being a much better community manager than Verone ever was.
Yeah, Noldu, he was fired.
It's that bit where, like, it has never publicly been said. We should clarify this real quick. It's never publicly been said what went on with Falcon at all. This is people reading between the lines, a little bit of speculation, and as Sothshell said in the comments, it's kind of an educated guess, because the way in which it happened, the circumstances leading up to it, are very, very different from when CCP Guard left, when CCP Seagull left. It's just one of those things of, like,
you can tell if you've been in
difference. You can kind of
if you've lived in the corporate realm long enough, you can figure it out. It's not hard, guys.
Usually you don't, like, run around and talk like you're going to be there for another year at least, and talk about plans within CCP when you hand in your resignation pretty much the same, which is what happened with Falcon.
Right.
He was still talking about plans and everything, and then a week later, the post went up that he's leaving.
So it's pretty easy, Noldu. So anyway, let's get on to the Convict thing, right? And keep on that. I get that sometimes the message isn't perfect, right? And I have said for years in articles and on this show that CCP doesn't have good standard operating procedures on conveying information to customers, right?
CCP have standard operating procedures.
They do. They don't, right?
I mean, who would convey that information?
They should have posted it on their forums, and then they should have posted on Reddit. Hey, we've got this on our forums. Let's get your feedback on that, right? Because they control that environment. So I think it's important for players to take the time and actually share with CCP their thoughts, because I think Convict genuinely wants to know the answer. This isn't some feel good, we're going to let you vent type of post, right? So I think it's good.
Yeah, and it's a personal thing, because if I'm not entirely mistaken, I think he's been slightly AFK-ish from EVE for a while, since he simmered down after the last Deep Down Under, right? So I think this is about him getting back in the feel of the community and the game and where it's at. And well, he also talked about in voice chat the other day about the whole thing of being back and playing the game, because now they lifted the whole set of rules for developers, so now developers can actually play with their own characters again. So there's just a lot of I think positive things about putting this post out. Of course, it should have been on the official forums first, but in general, getting this feedback and getting a feel for the community is definitely going to make it easier for him to do his job.
I like Dirk's comment in chat.
I mean,
yeah. So, and I'm going to share some thoughts. I think some of the things I'm going to hit on when I respond to Convict are the problem that CCP has had in the last couple of years is that they've focused on the wrong parts of the game. They've tried to force the players to play the game a certain way. And because they wanted the players to play the game a certain way and the players didn't want to play the game that way, that's part of their problem with a diminishing player base. And it's a diminishing player base. I don't care about the Korean expansion. It's not going to fly, right?
And this is what we were talking about before the show, right? The fact that CCP seems to have been doing things when it comes to game design that goes in the direction of flattening things and creating this only one method fits, or there's only like one way of playing the game. They've removed a lot of the specialization. They've reduced the whole product development thing into everything just needs to be flat and equal. And I just think that this way of casualizing the game is actually killing the game, because even though some people will say, well, too much complexity is not good in an MMO, I think they're fundamentally wrong, because then you would be able to use the same argument for Starbucks, right? There's too many options when you have coffee in a Starbucks, but that's the whole point. The whole point is that I can individualize and get exactly what I want, and everyone else can do the same. And I don't understand why we are moving away from this sort of complexity design, which actually integrates every action in the game.
If complexity is bad, why am I playing Kerbals?
I mean, I'm playing Factorio right now. I mean, complexity is not a thing that I have a problem with.
Oh, right. Last of the coffee. It's so sad.
Look at the games that everybody keeps playing year after year. Fucking like they're the ostensibly simple games, but they're not really the simple games. They're the games that look simple, but there is a lot of depth and complexity. Kerbals, Minecraft is still going strong. I mean,
oh yeah, very strong and expanding, and the whole Minecraft 3D thing,
right.
Augmented reality is amazing.
I mean, here's a
that just disturbs me.
We've had 3 games mentioned there. We've had Minecraft, we've had Factorio, and we've had Kerbals. All 3 of those games are, admittedly Factorio isn't a full release game yet, but it's been around for years. There are extensive mod communities for all 3 of those games that allow you to add further complexity when you want to, when you feel that you are in a position where you've done the main game, so let me try something new. So I wonder if...
And they never simplify or streamline the games in the mod community. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Kerbal has the one exception with MechJet, which is the autopilot.
So, and
yeah, but even that's just so you haven't learned orbital mechanics yet. Don't worry, you will.
Yeah.
Welcome, Pargus.
Hey, Bob.
Hey,
sorry, guys.
We created, patriotic tendencies in one of the North American servers for Atlas there are more ex-goons and of my current corporation logging in to play that than they are to play Eve.
I mean, are they ex-goons? If the
we've got we've got an ex-AMOC guy. We've got an
that wasn't the question, Eric. It wasn't the question of are they in goons, as in goons form fed.
Oh no,
are they ex-goons? Like, is that possible? At any point?
I get it. Well, ex-Eve goons. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think CCP's focus, really, it feels to me as a player, is Hilmar's now on to, hey, we're going to be on the phone platform, right? That new release on the phone is where his mind is and where he's going. And you know what? Thank God, keep him distracted by that and let somebody who actually understands how the PC-based EVE Online works run it.
Because the last thing he introduced was so much better. Yay, HyperNet Relay.
I'm just gonna go out on this one here for a moment to say that I would like to thank Antiquarian for the most absolutely genuine moment in all of EVE Vegas history.
That was brilliant.
What was it?
The moment during his conversation with the guy who's running the lead developer for the project manager for Echoes.
Not project manager, the PR guy. CCP.
Right, the PR guy. Right. The moment that during their conversation, the moment Antiquarian realizes he's just said, like the both of them have just said, that Eve Echoes sounds like all the good parts of Eve and none of the bad parts, and oh my god, it's going to be the best version of Eve. And Antiquarian realizes he's just said that and goes, but I'm going to be playing more Eve Online.
So yeah,
and so should you. Like,
to give a little bit of context and let you figure out where you can find it. This was right before CCP Rise's presentation on the game balance, and this is where he was talking about Team Talos and their goals. So if you want to go back and find it in the VOD, it's just before that. And Bjorn B and CCP Antiquarian, as Arendis has mentioned, were talking to CCP Jax, who is the PR guy for Eve Echoes, and is quite possibly the most competent PR guy CCP have ever put in front of a camera, because he's talking about this game.
On message, he was practiced, he was relaxed, he was completely familiar with his material. Yeah, this dude is on point.
Can I just kill this for a second? Yeah. Because this reminds me of how every fucking teenager started getting into pen and paper when they switched to the D20 system, right? And yes, it was made simpler, and yes, it was easier to get into, but as an old school pen and paper player, I think they completely lost the plot. They destroyed the whole unique selling point of pen and paper when they made it this easy mode children's game. And sure,
no, they didn't.
Well, again, I'm just saying that I like my pen and paper games a little bit more complex and interesting.
Okay,
and I think
Caleb.
There are so many.
We could get into
pen and paper.
Yeah,
that
we could get into a whole massive frickin' thing on game theory and gamist versus simulationist versus storytelling, and believe me, there are infinite variety of degrees of I want narrative versus I want crunchy, and not a single bit of it will be about Eve.
No, but the point is that it parallels this whole thing of saying, well, this new game, Eve Echoes, is all the rage, and it's so much better, and blah, blah, blah. And it's easier to get into, but it's a flattened version. And back to the whole complexity thing that I was just on about, what makes me interested in EVE Online, the PC game, is exactly the fact that there is was an infinite amount of degrees of freedom, and the complexity is almost endless. And to a point where sometimes weird shit emerges, and you should really be one of the experts on this, where because of this complexity, sometimes fittings can be completely broken when it comes to game design and game balance, and it needs to be fixed. But it's the complexity and the tinkering that makes it fun.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing there with Eve Echoes versus Eve isn't about the complexity or the tinkering or what have you. It's the fact that it's an EVE Online gameplay experience that
you get the
feels
feeling
like EVE without having to worry about the bullshit of planetary interaction, for example. Like, they managed to get that thing down from, what was it? Somewhere in the region of 120 clicks to 80 clicks or so to set up a PI colony now. It's like... that's a little bit less RSI with my RSI. Thank you. In Eve Echoes, it's push a button, you have PI. And I can get behind that kind of mechanic, where you get a basic thing for a push button, and then if you want to tweak and go in, you can. This is the thing that I think CCP as EVE Online developers are missing.
It's back to the pen and paper thing, right? It's cool that you can get these prefabricated games that you can play with your friends, where the characters are already made and all the NPCs are already created, and you can have a nice, cool evening, maybe 1 or 2 days over a weekend, and you can get the feeling of playing pen and paper. But it's just not the same as sitting down and using hours and hours on designing your own character, on going through all the rule books, on sitting there and having conversations with your game master, of interacting with the proper designed NPCs that actually fit the cosmology. So it feels like a flattened version of an entertainment type that I actually have grown very fond of, and I think that this is destroying it, and the focus on flattening things and making it easier, in my opinion, is destroying the game.
I mean, that's fair, but like my point was more, EVE Echoes has the ability for people to push a button and it works. EVE Echoes does
get into
not
the game.
have the ability to go into that push button system and fine tune it, tweak it to what they want. And I think this is where CCP could really be bridging a gap and really sort of potentially taking the game, is if they created a system where you can get a basic PI setup. It's not the most efficient, it's not the most profitable, and it's gonna be, less effective overall, but you only have to push like 2 or 3 buttons to get it. That's great.
Yeah, as an introduction thing and as a funnel, it's amazing. It's just like D&D versus AD&D, right? You want this product out there so more and more players can eventually graduate and enter into the actual game, like the real version, right? This is what I hope that EVE Echoes is going to be. It's just that I feel like CCP have then put things in EVE Online that is doing something similar, that is also flattening and making it more easy mode. And I think that they should go in the exact opposite direction. I'm fine with Echoes and other products funneling new players and bridging the generational gap. That's awesome. I want more younger players to be engaged in EVE Online, but I don't want them to come into a game that is fundamentally broken compared to the past.
I mean, I'm never going to argue with you about them taking out complexity. They took out pause timers and killed off a bunch of actual PvP content that way, and they took out a certain amount of complexity because they took out the stronting mechanic. And that wasn't necessary. Well, it was to accomplish Citadels as they'd imagined them, but it had a negative impact long term, and I think that's because there was no potential for that long term. With a pause, you could set it up, and you could put no stront in it, you could put max stront in it, or you could take the time, as it was being attacked if you were online, to go to that pause and fine-tune its stront timer. And you had the option for that,
There's good complexity and there's bad complexity.
Exactly.
Good complexity is the stuff that gives you opportunities. It's the things that gives you options. Bad complexity is the stuff that forces you into tedium. As an example of this, all right, good complexity, no matter how much people bitch about it because they don't have their passive income anymore, changing moon mining over to an active system is good complexity. It spreads out the money directly. It gives people opportunities to go and do things. You can still go and fight over a moon. Okay? You just have to fight with the different structure rules. And yes, the structure changes do make it a little more AIDSy, but that's a different thing than just is the moon mining active or not.
The moon mining
bad,
fine.
Bad complexity. Entosis warfare versus shoot the goddamn iHub.
Fair.
One of these is tedium.
Horrendous. 3 timers on a Citadel. Takes me a week. Used to take me
2 days.
48 hours on a pause. Like,
yeah. Well, I
could do that over a weekend.
I don't disagree. Like I said, the structure changes themselves. That's a different issue. And yes, I think that there should probably be 3 timers for XL structures, 2 timers for everything lower, and if it's low power, you knock out one of those timers.
I just want to point out that with the Citadel kind of mechanics right now, if a situation that basically was the spark for BTAC-R happened, we wouldn't have a BTAC-R. I'm just saying this right now, right? If you don't have SOV in the system that you have your Citadel, that doesn't matter. Like, you'll still have timers. You still have to reinforce. Your structure will still reinforce perfectly fine.
Also,
back in the day, if you didn't have like a sovereignty in the system that you had your structure in, it could be shot all the way through and flipped.
Just as a fun anecdote as well, they should really look at taking out some of the really worthless mechanics, like the TCU, for example. Just take the TCU out, include
Wasn't that
all
part
of
of
its
the plan a
functionality,
year or
which
two
is
ago?
just like planting a flag into the iHub and call it good. Because Horrendous and I did actually have a chat before Christmas about one of the things that we should do as kind of a prank, and that was take a TCU, knock out 1DQ's TCU, drop it, plant it under Horde, and then just keep shooting it every couple of days over the holiday period, just for fun. let them.
That's evil.
Let Horde own 1DQ for a few days, because why not? It doesn't matter. We still have the iHub, we still have the jump bridges, all of the rest of it. And that's, I think, another example of bad complexity. It doesn't do anything apart from, give you a flag, and there is actually a somewhat documented effect of you can go in and invade a region, and as long as you don't touch the TCUs, a chunk of the people who live in that region will never notice they're under attack until it's too late. Because they'll take a look at Dotlan and they won't log in. So they're looking at Dotlan, oh, we're being attacked. Yeah, but I'm not seeing any changes on Dotlan. I'm not seeing our space go. I'm not seeing our flags being pushed back.
And just to get back to the good complexity things that Horrendous was on about with moon mining, I think they've lost the plot in not doing something active gameplay-wise with PI. It was what everyone was hoping for back when it was launched, and it's still this passive income bullshit that, well, most people that I talk to at least tend to hate, right? They like it because it's a passive income, but other than that, they really hate it with a passion, right? This should have been SimCity in space since day one, but it was just not iterated on and it was not expanded on. And now where you're moving into mobile platforms, so much more, this should actually be looked upon again, because that would be something that people would actually spend time playing.
So I have a question for you guys.
It should not be SimCity.
Okay, good. I agree.
It should be Farmville in space.
Yeah.
Go.
So, question for all of you. So we look at all these broken mechanics, and we see a good bit of them, and quite often we seem to say, if that vision had been allowed to come to its completion, then maybe that mechanic would actually work and wouldn't be broken as it is today, right? Do you guys feel that CCP has that they have a path and then they never get to the end of the path before they change?
I think it's more that they solve a problem in a very narrow-minded way of looking at something. They forget to look deeper and say, what is the actual consequence going to be? My best example is infinite industry slots. It did solve the problem with plugged slots and all of that stuff, and it was, call it a semi-logical development on launching structures, right? But fundamentally, they didn't actually look at this and say, okay, what is that actually going to do with regards to things like competition and specialization? Because it completely destroyed that. It made it so boring to be an industrialist that most people that I knew that were specialists in industry has fucked off and don't play EVE anymore.
Eric, I'm just going to jump in here. Isn't that what Rise basically admitted to at Vegas?
I don't know. I
Their
went to
teams get so bad.
Vegas to drink and hang out with my friends. I didn't buy a ticket to the EVE Vegas thing. I didn't care that it was there. The best thing about EVE Vegas is when Duck Killer from our corporation drove his little, electronic wheelchair with a couple shots over to a couple CCPers and told them, "Hey, let's do a toast." And after they did the toast, he said, "By the way, the Matani sends his regards." That's like the greatest thing in Vegas for me.
Okay, so during
That is
Rise's
basically what happened,
presentation, during Rise's presentation, there was a point at which something to do with shield slaves was mentioned, and he basically said, "We've never got round to them, just like a number of other things, because we get so far into it, and then priorities change. A new project comes down, and we have to work on that. The team gets redistributed."
Well, if you've never heard Celine talk about the time that he was actually a CCPer, designing and putting together the Dominion Solve system, like the Dominion Solve system was more complex than we ever experienced it. Like the only thing was, CCP had to push it through the door, and they weren't actually finished with it, and they basically ditched a ton of stuff that was going to make it even better than we kind of begrudgingly think back, to the golden days of EVE, when we actually, had to deal with, with that particular solve system. Like, it's one of those things where that is a clear case of, CCP kind of going, we'll push it through the door and then iterate on it, and then they never get around to doing it.
They never iterate. They never go back.
Well, they do for small things,
but they never give a system a revamp. They never look at it and go, this was the design potential, this was where we were going, this is what it's actually done, how do we get it from what it's done to what we wanted it to do? They go,
and the best example
can we
is
tweak it in the right
right?
direction while we work on something else?
They have revamped systems, but it's taken them a long time to do so. Normally, it's taken like anywhere from about 3 to 5 years to get back around to like redoing or revamping or, kind of balancing the system. But Soth, what were you going to say?
You're all missing something here. Like during Vegas, they were talking about all these things that they could work on, all these things that they should work on, and it was always pointed out that they can't do all of that because they don't have enough dev time, right? And then a few weeks later, we get the fucking Hypernet relay. Because apparently there was enough dev time for that shit.
Have you heard the story behind that?
That was specifically not a Team Talos thing, I do want to say. Team Talos is, quote-unquote, a balanced team. They did not do the Hypernet relay. Rise was most likely involved based on the CSM minutes that were declassified, but it's not a Team Talos release, the Hypernet. That's something different.
To what was said during a conversation, it was one dev, who's apparently a UI designer, over the course of the last 2.5 years has done it in his spare time.
Yeah, who enjoyed basically what Summerblink used to do and kind of wanted it back, but also heard from a fair amount of people apparently that that people wished that Summerblink was still a thing. Still wish that they could still do that kind of
QA
stuff.
fucking atrocity that the Hypernet relay release was, because it was a really nice UI. It was a really
and the
great
fact that the
UI.
code didn't work. Oh,
But,
sorry.
Well, there was some coding issues. For sure.
He was clearly a UI designer.
Yeah.
Like I turned around and went, the only way I see it taking 2.5 years and it being a UI designer is if he's learned to code in that entire time.
But it's,
Probably.
it's not a relevant example because this is about adding new stuff, and you can't really conflate new stuff and reiterating and rebalancing old stuff. The development time is very different, right? You need to also dedicate some time for actual new stuff to get into the game. Things like triangles, which apparently is very popular.
The problem is really very simple, and it's one that Soth came close to. Here's the problem. CCP is a company that has never had a large enough development staff, and 2 years ago slashed their fucking payroll to the core to sell that company. They probably need to triple their staff at least to be able to deliver on even half of the promises.
Well, you say that like yeah. I mean, that is.
And they need to get the fuck out.
That is a good point. That is, that is. It is killing. It is a stranglehold on the company, to be completely honest. Because like getting staffing to go and stay in like and live in Iceland is like, yeah, I can see why that would be an absolute pain in the ass. But the other kind of thing is, like the funny thing is like the kind of work that CCP does on Eve, you know, full fat Eve, like. You take that and you compare that to the amount of work that you know that they've done on fucking Echoes. Holy fucking shit! It pales in comparison.
But this goes to.
I mean, I know it's a different company,
but this goes to the core problem that CCP has, in my opinion, when it comes to their monetization strategies. Over the last 5 to 10 years, I feel like they've been doing some sort of vampiric cannibalism. Tourniquet monetization, where they are maybe getting some money into the company, but they're doing that and it's costing them actual live players, right? So it's just less and less players are spending more and more, but we're not expanding the player base. And I think that is the fundamental problem that they have. They are monetizing in all the wrong ways, right?
But they've always done that.
Yeah, their corporate philosophy has always been this kind of weird parasitism. I mean, they buy White Wolf. They announce this great new project, the World of Darkness MMO, and immediately decide, hey, by the way, at the same time, we're going to do this other thing for the Eve team, and we're going to totally borrow all of the development staff for this other project to work on Eve for a while. Now it's just Eve's turn to be the thing that everybody's not working on while other things are getting prioritized. Except instead of saying we're borrowing the staff, no, we're just firing them and hiring a new studio to do it.
So can I just like sidetrack real quick into a conversation that's kind of happening in the comments section a little bit, and I think it loops back to something that we said earlier on in the show about CCP's messaging and their ability to present a united front as they're discussing things. So the conversation that's kind of been going on in the comment section is about CCP's promises, and specifically Rise being up on stage in Vegas talking about Team Talos and their new remit. And the actual presentation at Vegas, the one that Rise got up on stage and was live streamed to the world, was all about how Team Talos is going to function. You know, the 2-week releases, the more dev interaction.
You mean CCP Rise presents a whole lot of projects we don't have time?
Exactly.
Basically.
And Rise was talking about some of the ideas that they had for low-sec and for faction warfare and for citadels potentially and all of these different things. And then King Ares is bringing up a roundtable that happened at Vegas. And the roundtables are great, because they're an opportunity to have an actual conversation with the devs that are supposedly working on those projects. But there's also that bit where, you know, you hear a thing and it sounds like a promise sometimes. And other people hear the same thing and they go, well, either this is a promise or it's something that I can laugh at. Just as a case in point, the Alliance tournament a lot of players will hear stuff about the Alliance tournament nowadays and go, "This sounds like CCP are working on it," and then a lot of the
Shield Slaves
previously Shield Slaves are another one.
Like the dev blog the other day with the image of Sancha.
Exactly.
Right? That just got everyone going.
And so it's that bit where, like, they like to have fun. We appreciate that about them. But at the same time, their communication is so vague a lot of the time that you really can hear what they're saying and take, your own interpretation, and it could be valid. They could be working on Shield Slaves as a basis from that dev blog. Yeah. They equally probably aren't. Exactly.
Version rework. It could be Sanchas in NullSec dropping shield mods now.
It's one of those bits where they have no policy for the way they're communicating. They have no procedure for that, and therefore we're all reading into it. Everyone's reading into it, and
probably because the people who were in charge of that communication got fired.
Right, but the guy who was in charge of that communication, who was no longer with the company, wasn't very good at it.
Oh, ding, 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 ding.
I mean, in fairness, Falcon, Varone, whatever we're calling him, he did like to have fun at the potential expense of individuals. He'd say something just as a throw-out comment and go, actually, the way this has turned out is hilarious, so I'm going to keep feeding the beast.
Which just made conversation difficult. I've got to hand it to Convict lately.
I mean, trusting him in any of his official communication.
All of a sudden, Arendis, you got real quiet to me. Did he get quiet to anyone else?
Yeah, he got quiet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll try to talk louder.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, Elvis.
Wish I had his money. Arendis, get out of the car.
No, that's a Hasselhoff song, not Elvis.
No, I was referring to Eric's. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I know. I was responding to WebGurix in response to the Eric. In response to the.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, you were saying, Arendis, about communication and them not being very good at it.
They're not. They're not very good at it, and they have a long history now of being very bad at it. And the whole thing with Falcon's tenure made it so that you couldn't trust anything they said, because maybe he was just, and that's a terrible position to have your freaking community rep in.
Yeah.
If you can't trust the things that is coming from the company, why should we be listening to the company? If we can't trust the things the company is saying, why should we trust the company at all? And if we can't trust the company, why the fuck are we paying?
I mean, it's like, I don't even know how to pronounce his name in chat, but I'm going to butcher it. Nightmare Moo, with a load of numbers in it. Whenever CCP does say something, the community throws napalm. The community throws napalm because CCP has a history of lying about stuff, or not following through.
Not following through.
Or just... I think the phrase everyone here is looking for is, watch what they do, not what they say.
Or they're just stupid about it. The example I keep going back to on this is Resource Wars. And it came up in the Reddit too. Resource Wars was a decent idea. It wasn't a terrible idea. And the implementation of it wasn't bad, except the rewards sucked for the effort. And when nobody actually used it, the players who tried it told CCP, the rewards suck for the effort. That's why we're not doing anything. And CCP's response was, oh, well, we guess nobody likes this. No, the rewards suck for the effort involved. You say this is aimed at newbies. Okay, then why is one of the rewards the LP to buy this certain item that costs that LP and 100 million?
New players were actively losing money on the content.
Yeah.
It was easier to, as somebody who's a veteran, it was easier to, instead of directing them to it, just give them the fucking...
By the way, shout out to Big Ray and Mr. Diggs for the follows. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Or ladies.
It was cheaper, too, as well, just as a point. Like...
Sorry, yes, as well.
easier and cheaper to just hand new players shit instead of like having them go out and earn it and learn the game. That's not a good thing. Like, it's never gonna be a good thing.
It was actively damaging. And King Ares, I see the link you've just put. I'm gonna say that 2019 is the latest
we got the
line of promised years.
We got the amulets.
Only
amulets
it's
changed.
a simple rename.
Of course, it was just a simple rename. But you know, that's CCP's point. No, see, we delivered.
We delivered. Low effort.
But we'll iterate on that.
Didn't they actually change the drop locations as well on that? Or have they not?
No.
Are amulets still dropping in Sancha space?
I believe they're still dropping in Sancha space because they're supposed to be.
They were supposed to shift to Blood Raider.
Yeah, they're Blood Raiders.
Yeah, true. I don't know. Then. I'll have to have a look.
That was the point.
I think they're dropping from Blood Raiders.
Okay, so they've accomplished like 20% of what they were supposed to be doing with Shield Slaves. Are we supposed to give them a thumbs up for this?
Dirk, not even that. Less than 5%, because they were with Shield Slaves. They were also supposed to be doing a shield tanking and shield regen rebalance.
I mean, I never expected that.
Oh god, and King Ares on another one.
Pause removal? There's still pauses out there? Seriously?
Pause removal was promised by Christmas just gone.
Yeah, they haven't hit feature parity on pauses yet, so you know they can't.
They haven't.
I don't know what to do, folks.
Yeah, no, they haven't hit feature parity.
Here's what's going to happen.
Suddenly quiet again.
They're going to pull the pause code.
Still not there?
They're going to pull the pause code, and then half of Eve's going to break because they don't know what's in it and dependent on it.
No, because they're not going to remove the pause code. They're just going to remove active pauses and not have any.
They were blocking it off.
So when the CPU goes through its pause check, we'll just waste the frickin' CPU cycles.
Yeah,
okay. Just
exactly. Unknown dormant code. What could possibly go wrong?
Absolutely.
What could possibly break? Everything.
I'm sorry, guys. I liked
removed pause code. Okay, my skills no longer work.
What could possibly break local? I don't know if you've checked.
Local stops after the pause removal. That'd be funny as hell.
What pause parity isn't?
The anchoring times. They've been talking about this kind of forward operating base type thing where you can get tethering, but it dies in a single cycle and that kind of thing. It's that bit of like dropping a thing. It has like a 1 hour anchor timer, and then you can tether shit on it. But it has a really short.
That was a wish list item. They believed bar that they'd met parity and could pull pauses. And that was the promise at Amsterdam. It was we're pulling pauses by Christmas. This may come at some other time.
Bar that, they've reached feature parity.
Pretty much.
And they have a CCP. You know, this is the kind of shit that makes us not trust them. Max, they've already started refunding existing pauses. Or not in space or in hangars. They haven't actually mentioned that, sorry. They've started refunding blueprints for building pauses and pause components.
Yes, blueprints are changing.
I like pauses. I just thought that if you armed pauses the way you do with the modules for stations, they'd be a lot cooler. You take the tedious complexity out of them and just drop everything in, and then things appear around them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that, and you know, other than that, they were kind of cool. I thought they were one of the more interesting things. They're more interesting to stations than to me, but. And you could lose them a lot easier. You know?
Oh, but people don't want to lose things, Eric. Come on. Like,
you know what?
I don't want to put a stake on the map.
I had a whole set of alts that I played in low sec because pauses existed, and now that they don't exist, I don't log any of those in. You know, the guys that played in that corporation, none of them play anymore, and hey. it's I don't know. Pauses were something that just seemed like we fought over them far more often. I know horrendous.
It's because they only die. It's because they only took like 2 days to die.
Yeah.
They only took 2 days to die, and you could actually metagame them into a more favorable kind of time.
You
zone
could
for
shoot their
yourself.
defenses off as well.
You could shoot their defenses off. You could harass people by shooting modules on it and just disabling bits of it. You could bring more guys and kill it quick.
Horrendous. We're missing the big one of all.
Oh, I hate 8 hit point cap or damage cap. DPS
So
cap.
the biggest one we're
terrible.
missing is that loot drops from it when it dies.
I was about to.
Whoa! What you mean?
Yeah,
you mean
we can get super.
you get a loot drop from a pause?
Yeah.
I bet you there's whole generations of EVE players that don't even know what a loot drop from a pause or a station would be like.
Anyway, I gotta take off, guys.
Yeah, we'll see ya. So we're right at 2:00. Let's do our round table one last thing, unless somebody's got something they went in first before one last thing.
I do have one thing about the whole pause versus structure thing, which pretty much goes back to the whole CCP iterating and going back and revisiting and fixing things, because this has to do with the fact that when you launched structures back in the day, you needed to get to a point of proliferation where it's on parity with what we had with POSes and stations, right? So we needed to get to a point where there was enough structures to support the same thing, so you could then rip out the old POS code and make everything structures, right? So I believe that one of the ideas that CCP had was that they were going to make it rather hard to destroy them so they could actually be protected. A bit like protecting turtle eggs, right? So you give them time to nurture them and get them into the wild, and when there's enough of them, then you can then change how easy it is to actually aggress against them, right? It just feels as if they never got around to actually fixing that part and making them more vulnerable again, and putting them in a place where they are on parity and balanced in a similar way as the old POS code. So I think
to the CCP iteration.
I disagree though. Like, the problem with Citadels isn't that they are hard to kill. The problem is there's no reason to do it.
Bingo.
I mean, it's a little bit of column B there, because I mean, a Keepstar. I actually discovered during the last glassing of Tribute that one of the monitor's downsides is that it masses more than an Eagle, which means that whenever I went near a Keepstar with some backup FCs and their fancy monitors that they'd spent far too many skill points training and really didn't tank all that well, they got zapped and I didn't, which was wonderful. I laughed my ass off when I found that out. But
I was flying a Leshak and I never got zapped, so you did something wrong there.
No, the monitor, Eagle fleets, Sothrasil. Monitor has more mass than an Eagle, therefore it gets zapped by the Doomsday and the Eagle doesn't. And yeah, you know, so the Keepstar is kind of overpowered in that it can zap subcaps with a Doomsday. I mean, what's that all about? But at the same time, yeah, there's definitely a level of not having drawn them back at the same time.
I love the fact how CCP kind of went like, oh, we've brought out this new ship for FC so they can stay sort of like with their fleet and fighting and you know, sort of commanding their fleet for longer. But conveniently forgot about the fact that like those chain Doomsdays can literally fire on the subcap and literally just eviscerate it completely straight away.
I have maintained with the FC ship thing that the best solution, or the like most elegant solution for CCP when it comes to FCs and allowing FCs to do what they were doing, is to create a rig that can be put on small, medium, large, potentially even capital ships, although capital ships function in a very different way when you're FCing them, so that the resists of the ship are increased, the damage done by the ship is massively decreased. We're talking about like a 99% reduction in damage, so that they can whore on that with a launcher or whatever, but you're not doing anything effectively on the damage front, and increases their ability to use probes, combat probes.
But it is
if
also
they'd
back
done
to
those things to increase the tank of an FC within their current fleet comp, a Jackdaw fleet, where the FC is flying a Jackdaw that has better resists, better probing, but basically 0 damage, that would be a more elegant solution than the way they did it, which was brute forcing a ship that could kind of potentially do it all, but had massive drawbacks whenever it did anything.
So some kind of fleet damage control module.
It's still back to the things that Soth was trying to point out, that there's just not enough incentive to destroy structures, right? And they've added so many benefits and upsides to structures that it is completely misbalanced now, right? Whether you're talking about things like infinite slots or docking Titans or no longer having abortion of Titan production or tethering, you have all these upsides,
it's really difficult
right?
to have a downside.
There's so many upsides, and there's no incentive to actually kill them. And even if there was an incentive, they are still too strong, and you need to invest too much time to actually take them down. This is back to what Arenda said. These should have had that balanced pass that he basically mentioned, where it's 3-2-1, and we just never saw that, right? We need to get CCP to acknowledge that in order for us to have any activity in the game, we need to get those incentives to actually fight and destroy shit. Not just ships, but especially also infrastructure-like structures.
I mean, how many balance passes are we actually coming on Citadels now? Is it 2 or 3?
It feels like the balance passes on the Rorqual, right? It's so broken, you can't really do balance passes unless you roll it back to the point where it was before, because it is completely broken, and it's the same with structures right now.
I mean, excavators should never have existed.
No, and why can't you just remove them? They removed the harvester drones. Why can't you remove the excavators? What is this protectionist racket that they're running? Where, no, we can't take this away from the players. Well, you did it in the past. Why not doing it again?
Well, here's the thing, right? So they made something out there that was OP, and then it became really expensive for players to buy it. So if they remove them, then they get a bunch of really pissed off people because they take away, what they bought. And again, they were told not to do this, right? And they just said, "Oh,
remove them.
Don't worry, we'll nerf them."
I can confirm.
Remove them. Just stop the blueprints dropping, and they should slowly go out of circulation.
I can confirm they were told not to do it because exactly this would happen. I was there.
Everyone told them this. It's the same every time. They go, "Hi guys, we're thinking about doing this fun thing, and this is how we want to do it." And every single goddamn time, the player base tells them, "Okay, you can do this. This is, entirely on you. You can do this. We're not going to say you can't. But what we will tell you is exactly how we're going to abuse it if you introduce it like you're talking about."
Right.
And almost every single time where they don't change their design plan based on how we will abuse it as we've told them, we abuse it in exactly the same way, and then they come back to us 6 months later going, "Oh dear God, guys, we never thought this would happen."
Yeah, that's the greatest thing, right?
We told you so.
We told you exactly that we would behave in this way, and we behaved in that way, and you're surprised.
I mean, do you think that's why we don't get communication with the devs anymore? Really, instead of learning from their mistakes and listening to us when they're told something's a bad idea, they just went, "We're sick of being told you so.
Well,
so we're just not going to communicate with."
I don't know. I mean, and by the way, it's hard. Put yourself in a dev position too. It's got to be hard to say again, the devs always think we're metagaming them and we're only looking in our own self-interest. Our own self-interest is that the game doesn't go to shit. Okay, it's not that we get a personal advantage as much as we want everybody to enjoy the game.
Well, there's a certain assumption by a lot of places.
I mean, structures being spammed, Rorquals being the way they are to our self-advantage as a player and even as Goonswarm Federation because we gained from both of those mechanics tremendously. Yet
Yeah, but
we said don't do it.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
very
and
true.
then we haven't even touched upon one of my pet peeves, which is the problem with the whole balance of industry, right? The fact that it takes an hour and a half to build this thing. Why is it so fast? That makes no sense to me. Why don't they add more
we touched on this
restrictions?
earlier.
Yeah, but the point is that
There's so much wrong with it, though. Let's be frank.
end level stuff needs to be balanced to a point where it's not just the input in value, it's also the necessity of infrastructure and things like time. I don't understand why something this valuable, the excavator is what, 500 million to $1 billion, why it takes only an hour and a half to produce. That makes no sense to me.
The time to produce it is more in gaining the assets. To a
The
degree.
problem is if there's low requirements on skill levels and very fast build, right? Then it's so easy to catch up the birthing rate of these things to the loss, right? And especially when it's also easy to then gain the actual drops of the blueprints, right? It's figured out. This is the problem with CCP. CCP needs to sit down and figure out how to add dynamic complexity to these variables, right? Whether it's drop rates or requirements to build and all of these things, they need to have some sort of dependency on metrics and variables that cannot be gamed or put in a spreadsheet.
This just came to my mind. I want you guys to hear me out and then react to it, okay? Imagine if they wanted people to use the Rorqual because they had a ship that nobody used because, hey, you just put one in and based on fleet mechanics, it would boost my fleet, right? And they changed the fleet mechanics. But imagine if they didn't change the fleet mechanics and it still was trickle down from the top. Imagine if they got rid of pauses so you couldn't park them in a pause. And imagine if they had the Rorqual with the panic button, the way it is today, and its job was to sit there on grid and boost, or even off grid, right? I mean, because I said don't do it, but imagine if fleet mechanics stayed the same and you had the Rorqual and the Rorqual just boosted the other ships still, but gave them a higher degree of boost and there were no pauses.
Well,
right?
It's what it should have been, quite frankly, when they did the rebalance.
Well, no, actually, we're assuming that the fleet mechanics didn't exist in the way that they do, and I think that what you would end up with is, like, some guy in every system. You'd have, like, a mining fleet for every system, and you'd have some guy with his Rorqual sat in an asteroid belt or an anomaly that was collectively agreed not to be touched, say the small. You'd sit your Rorqual in the small, you'd boost from the small, and there would always be a rock that you can panic off so that you can get help. So it would be a cycle through the day. You'd have somebody doing it from downtime through to like 1600. You'd have somebody take over in early EU, go through to late EU, somebody take over from late EU into early US, and so on and so forth. I think.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that, right?
I'm okay with that, but my point was that we would still have this thing where the Rorqual, it wouldn't be used as a ship in terms of that whole thing. You'd have more people owning them, for sure, because, I mean, hell, I used to live out in the drone lands where we would literally have one guy who would come on at downtime, park his Rorqual in a pause, set up his mining boosts for the system, and then go away for the entire day.
And you just have an open fleet for that system. Right?
Exactly. It
But-
would just be a fleet for the system.
But you had to fly to the Rorqual for your compression, right?
Yeah, you did.
You still had to, and you had to have your haulers if you had your haulers, and
Actually,
you
we
had to
didn't
have.
fly to the Rorqual for the compression because the pause that he was sat on had a compression array.
Oh well, okay, fine. and so, and then the other thing that you would have now pauses are gone, so there's no compression array, right? So you're going to use the Rorqual if you want to use it, or you're going to fly back
Or you're
to the
going to
station.
use a
But
station, yeah.
you have to have a lot more characters. You would have mined less.
You would mind less. You'd be in barges,
Right.
most likely. Without the excavators, you would be in barges.
And you'd be in barges, and maybe you had 100 barges out there rather than 16 Rorquals, right?
Yeah, that's
right?
what would have happened.
But you have bigger fleets out there. When a roaming fleet comes in, there's more of a chance that one of those bigger fleets isn't going to get off the grid. And you're going to get some kills,
Eric.
right?
You're going to catch some
because
No, you're probably not going to catch much.
being sat elsewhere, the Rorqual isn't panicking the barges, so
Right.
they're fair game if you can catch them.
Right.
It's about catching them. I think the Rorqual, as they were introducing the fleet mechanic changes, would have been interesting because you would have had a Rorqual in every every anomaly, basically.
Yeah, you could have made it so that they had to be on grid with the fleet, right? You could have done that.
There's a whole deal where, you're talking about these big miners, these guys who have 20, 30, 40 mining barge alts. Every single one of them would have had a Rorqual pilot so that they could make sure that they were boosting where they were mining.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hadn't necessarily had the panic as it was introduced, and indeed as it is today, having been nerfed a little bit, you'd be talking about the panic module as kind of not a catch-all, let me panic while I drop a supercap umbrella on you. You'd be talking about, okay, if I panic, I'm going to save my Rorqual. My Rorqual's worth 2 billion S. A lot of people in the old days, when they had large mining fleets, would use things like harvester implant sets, which if you could catch pods with a saber or whatever, that was an extra 500 million ISK on every single kill mail.
Yeah.
It's that they've reduced the amount of value on things that are easier to kill, mining barges, while concentrating that value into something that, with the addition of the excavators, became basically the only cost-effective way in which to mine because it could be saved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it all comes back to the excavators rather than anything else. The boosting changes wouldn't have had a significant impact if we hadn't had the ability for the Rorqual to mine the equivalent of 4, 5, 6 barges on its introduction, and even still today, 2 to 2.5 barges worth of ore with so much more safety.
I mean, we've literally just circled round through that entire discussion back to delete excavators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went from.
I think we all
the
agree on
original
that.
point was basically if they hadn't been a thing when it first came in and it was just a boosting platform, this is what would have happened.
And it would have been
That could
fine.
still be done now.
Yeah, you could have jacked up
do
its boosting a little bit because again, it's got to be on grid. It can't be hidden in a pause, right?
Eric, I wouldn't even have an issue if it was still allowed to off-grid boost, so long as
Yeah.
it followed through with deleting pauses. Because then, if it's somewhere in system and it's not on grid, it's probably on a structure, which at least you can bump it off of now.
I still don't
I
see
don't-
the
Could
I
be.
don't know.
guy-
Yeah, but you wouldn't be tethered. You wouldn't be tethered. Because
Oh,
you'd
God,
be
no, you wouldn't,
operational.
would you? Sorry.
Yeah, you wouldn't be tethered. I mean, you
No,
could
you need to
hide.
jump in.
You could hide in space where you had to be scanned down.
I don't
Okay.
mind
You're a
proving out a
Rorqual, though,
Rorqual.
so there's going to be no problem doing
I
that.
wouldn't do that. I like chances are I would if I was going to pick anywhere to sort of put my Rorqual in that particular situation, it would be literally on the Forza when it keeps.
Oh yeah, that's where you're gonna put it, right? But yeah, but you won't be tethered, and you're gonna be vulnerable to a
You
degree,
won't be
right?
tethered, no, but like you have faxes on standby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still just going to get back to the whole thing of the panic module because I keep banging on.
Yeah,
on
you
this.
could get rid of that too.
Well, I don't think I think it's the wrong place to put something like a panic module. I don't see any argument or incentive for why a resource gathering tool should have this kind of defensive capability. I would, on the other hand, say that something like a logistic thing like shipping, so freighters, might actually need something like this to be able to move through space and then be able to become bait and escalate a conflict, right? But I don't see why something that's pretty much staged to just numb roids should have this capability. I keep saying that anything that gathers resources in a very, very meaningful way should be fairly easy to destroy, not difficult.
Well, I mean, they're easy to destroy if the group that you're basically forced to panic doesn't come and defend them, because you just have to wait, that like up to 5 minutes for them to come out of panic, and then just basically kill them then. But like the thing is, the reason why there's a panic module there is because people consider raw calls to be a particularly expensive kind of thing, and so they kind of feel like they. I don't know whether it's the players felt like it and they pressured CCP to basically create a module to sort of allow them at least a degree of decent defenses, or whether it was CCP who was like, oh, these things do cost a lot, so we should probably put some kind of like significant defenses on there in order for people to kind of feel like they're not just throwing away money all the time.
Well, okay, in that argument, shouldn't the panic module be priced somewhere near 250 or 500 million to install?
Oh, maybe, but the issue is that the money there, the money invested is more in the raw core than in the panic module.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that if you then scaled up the value of the panic module, it would balance out that whole fact, right? Then you could say,
yeah,
well,
as long as you reduce
to...
the cost. As long as you reduce the cost of the raw core, yeah.
Well, maybe you should be able to have something like this on any hull that is of great size. So even up to Titans and whatnot, right? Dredge. Every ship of that size and potential value should have this panic capability, but the panic module itself should be something that is potentially pricey and scarce.
I mean, at that point, you're basically talking capital emergency harness or whatever they're called, right? EHE. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're coming up on an hour and a half soon, so we should probably run around.
Well, you did redirect us.
I did. That's my one last thing. I'm gonna sit there. Other than my one last thing would be Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you for watching the show. And we look forward to a great 2020, and I hope everybody has a great 2020. So good thoughts, happiness for everybody in 2020. So I'll go around the room. I'll start with Caleb for your one last thing, Caleb.
Well, I'm just hoping and looking forward to a potential influx of new players when the EVE Echo funnel starts working. Maybe the game will actually start fixing itself a little bit, because it doesn't seem like CCP is very interested in the macroeconomics of its game.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, it helps if I can actually see the channel. Okay, Bargos, go ahead.
I'm just going to wish people a happy 2020 and new decade at that.
True. Yes, new decade. Dirk.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way things have started off in 2020 are interesting. I hope they stay interesting and engaging for the next few years at least. And yeah, hope it works out for everyone. That's pretty much it. Like, Happy New Year, I guess.
Alrighty. McLeod.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't exactly... I wouldn't classify, like, what's happened so far in the year as interesting, but...
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch this space sort of thing. But to jump on what Caleb was kind of saying with regards to Echoes as well, just make sure if you are playing Echoes, right, and this is a PSA, right, so if you find yourself, riding through fresh fields with the sun in your face, and you're not in Elysium, but you are playing Echoes, try not to say Free Hong Kong.
As much as you may want it, they have banned people for saying
yes.
it.
Really?
Someone's been banned already for saying it. But I will qualify that, CCP are kind of like following it up and seeing, what they can do to basically reverse that. But the thing is, it is run by NetEase. NetEase is a Chinese company. Chinese companies like NetEase and like Tencent do have members of the Communist Party on their boards. So,
they have
it is what it is.
They have a national obligation based upon internal laws to do things like that. So, just worry about yourselves in this situation. It's a game. You don't have to make it political if you don't want to. Just chill.
Just if you don't want to, get banned, then try and avoid that.
I come to games and come to talk to my friends because although we may have different political opinions, we really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And respect each other, and that's what's kind of nice about this community, at least the ones that I'm friends with. All of you folks. Southersil, you are up.
Yeah, I guess best wishes to everyone in Australia. Stay safe out there, guys.
Oh, hold it. What did I miss? What happened in Australia?
It's on fire.
Oh, they're on fire. Oh, well, I'm from the United States. California burns like constantly.
No. Eric.
Yeah.
This is
like the whole
it's
continent.
on a whole new level.
Oh.
This is literally the whole country is on fire, and
people are on the beaches kind of going, if it's between being there and being in the water swimming for 12 hours, I'll take the water, thank you.
With the sharks and the
exactly.
and the jellyfish, right?
See, I saw an Anchorman meme that went January 1st, new decade going fairly well, all things considered. January 2nd, Australia appears to be on fire, and then January 3rd, World War III is announced. So, boy, that escalated quickly.
Wow. Yeah. So I hope everybody in Australia is safe. So definitely. But we're kind of a little immune to it in the U.S. because California burns all the time because they never clear anything out. Air travel, I can believe it. Yeah. I didn't even think they had trees in Australia to burn. I mean, what is it? Tumbleweeds, brush.
And, I mean, they have forests as well, which are.
At this point, everything is on fire.
If it can burn, it's burning.
That's a shame. Well, probably a lot of homes, a lot of people being displaced, and that's not good. That's never good. So when people...
Yeah, exactly.
Eric.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Oh, no, I was about to say, Eric, could you kind of do exclamation point permit on my name, please?
I know. Yeah. I know I've seen images of people nearly 200 kilometers away from the nearest fires, and the sky is just darkened.
There you go.
Sweet.
Can't believe. Oh, I'm yawning on camera. That's great. I got up really early this morning. I was like, I'm going to play some video games. Not Eve. So, stop this exaggeration. 500 million. Okay. Well, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to all our staff here on the show. Thank you for being on the first show of the 2020. The Roaring 20s, right? That's what we're in. And remember, guys, at least in the U.S., I don't know how you write checks in other countries. Sometimes we just do, slash the last two numbers of the year, right? Don't do that in 2020. Write out the full year because you never know what somebody can add to the end of it. All right. That's it. With that, we're going to send everybody off. Thank you, everybody. Everybody say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
The permit. I don't care if you buy a permit. Do you know how little I actually care if you have a permit?
fact that he received no support from that. I think Boat has some.
Yes, I
some
do.
leaks for us.
Oh, I got some leaks for you.
It's like simple shit like that. No, simple shit like that. If he can't answer that publicly,
I need to break in because I need more original every week. That's a goal.
Do you really actually get paid for that? Because you deserve money for that last one. That one was a fucking amazing setup.